Hello and welcome to Newsfeed, your daily dose of what people are talking about online, from news stories to what's trending. The U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission has charged former FTX CEO Sam Bankman-Fried with defrauding investors of his collapsed cryptocurrency exchange. The SEC says Bankman-Fried hid from investors that he'd moved their money from FTX to his trading firm Alameda Research. The commission says in total SBF had raised $1.8 billion in investor money, only to deceptively divert the funds. These charges come shortly after his arrest in the Bahamas. It's a dramatic fall from grace for SBF, who was once seen as the golden boy of the crypto industry. With his firm FTX, once one of the most powerful firms in the space. Here's SBF defending himself at a New York Times event recently.
At the end of the day, I was CEO of FTX, and that means whatever happened, wherever it happened, I had a duty. I had a duty to all of our stakeholders, to our customers, our creditors. I had a duty to our employees, to our investors, and to the regulators in the world to do right by them, to make sure the right things happened at the company. And clearly, I didn't do a good job of that. Clearly, I made a lot of mistakes or things I would give anything to be able to do over again. I didn't ever try to commit fraud on anyone.
Just before FTX implosion last month, SBF had an estimated net worth of more than $15 billion. Some had even likened him to a young version of legendary investor Warren Buffett. FTX was the world's second largest crypto exchange, trading about $10 billion in volume a day. It was seen as one of the safest and most reliable platforms in the unregulated industry. That is, until users rushed to pull $6 billion worth of deposits over the span of 3 days after rival exchange Binance abandoned a rescue deal. That run on deposits exposed an $8 billion hole in FTX's accounts. SBF resigned as CEO, his personal fortune has dwindled to virtually nothing, and the exchange filed for bankruptcy on November 11th. Aside from being charged by the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, SBF is also facing extradition from the Bahamas. Here's Melinda to tell us more about his arrest.
The arrest of Sam Bankman-Fried has made headlines right around the world. And it's no surprise because this is a big story. The failed crypto exchange, FTX, was one of the largest and considered one of the safest of its kind. And its collapse last month has left hundreds of thousands of investors out of pocket to the tune of an estimated $8 billion. Now, the US Attorney's Department released a statement on Twitter explaining his arrest. They said, Bahamian authorities arrested Samuel Bankman-Fried at the request of the US government based on a sealed indictment filed by the SDNY. Now, that stands for the Southern District of New York. We expect to move to unseal the indictment in the morning and we'll have more to say at that time. Now, Bankman-Fried was living in the Bahamas, and so that's why he's been arrested there, and he's now facing extradition back to the United States. No specific details of his charges have been released yet, but according to that tweet, it suggests that we're going to have some specific charges released in the next day or so. Now, we haven't heard anything yet from Bankman-Fried's lawyer, but the last we heard from the failed crypto boss himself was a few days ago on Twitter, when he wrote, I had thought of myself as a model CEO who wouldn't become lazy or disconnected, which made it even more destructive when I did. I'm sorry. Hopefully people can learn from the difference between who I was and who I could have been. Now, Bankman-Fried has always denied any criminal wrongdoing, but he's going to need to rely on a lot more evidence than just those sorts of apologies when he faces a US court after his expected extradition.
Well, it's happened again. The biggest news on Twitter is about Twitter. That's after its owner, Elon Musk, abruptly disbanded a volunteer board of experts advising the platform. The Trust and Safety Council was founded in 2016 and brought together 100 groups to help the site reduce hate speech, flag content encouraging suicide, and combat child exploitation. But just before the council was supposed to meet on Monday, it got a letter from Twitter saying its services were no longer required. Just days before, 3 members of the council had resigned because of Musk's decision to bring back far-right accounts, including self-identified Nazis. They said a Twitter run by a diktat is not a safe place for us. In response to their resignations, Musk said in the past Twitter had not done enough to stop child porn on the site. The platform's founder and former CEO, Jack Dorsey, contradicted his claim. Musk insists, though, previous management had turned down his requests for increased staffing to tackle the problem. But there's some doubt whether Musk can eradicate the issue on Twitter when he's cut so many staff. Bloomberg reports that employees say the team responsible for taking down and investigating crimes against children is down to just 10 people for Twitter's hundreds of millions of users. These sudden decisions are also likely to further spook advertisers, which are still Twitter's main source of revenue. Becoming a controversial figure on Twitter and being one in the real world are two different things, and Elon Musk found that out the hard way on Monday night. He was a guest of comedians Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock, who performed at the Chase Center in San Francisco to an audience of 18,000 people. The billionaire, who is no longer the richest man in the world, did not get an entirely warm reception from the crowd, but Chappelle tried his best to soften the blow.
Make some noise for the richest man in the world. Cheers and booze, I see. It sounds like some of them people you fired are in the audience. All those people are booing, and I'm just pointing out the obvious. They have terrible seats.
Wow, that was so cringe. And one Twitter user, a venture capitalist herself, said Musk looked stunned by the booing. She wondered if he got enough feedback IRL about what being controversial means. Musk posted and then deleted a tweet blaming San Francisco's, quote, unhinged leftists and estimated that only 10% of the audience was booing. Hard to test that theory in a lab, though. Another person observed that Musk got the same kind of treatment as Monty Burns did from Springfield on The Simpsons, and that his attempt to cope with his unpopularity was about the same. All right, so Musk says he wants to save civilization with technology. But if he's going to do that, he'll need to grapple with misinformation about the climate crisis. Something concerning is that 2022 was the worst year yet for climate skeptic content on Twitter, with climate misinformation exploding. For the past 3 years, it's been rapidly increasing. According to research by the British newspaper The Times and City University of London, there were at least 850,000 climate skeptic tweets or retweets on Twitter. And since Elon Musk's takeover of the platform, the number is on the rise. Last year, there were 650,000 tweets, but in 2020, there were only 220,000 tweets or retweets. Scientists say climate denial on the platform was already a dumpster fire, but now it's had a liter of gas thrown on it. Now, if you've been on Instagram this week, you've probably seen almost everyone posting AI pictures of themselves. Well, it's the latest trend. Insta's AI portrait app Lensa has gone viral. It hit #1 on both Apple and Google's charts with more than 5 million downloads just this month. But many have been left concerned about the company's privacy policy. The terms and conditions allow them to distribute and use images without any additional compensation. I know, like you, I tapped agree as well, but it never hurts to take a few minutes to read them, you know. Dennis Kenji Kipter is an IT security law professor, and he explains just how Lensa's privacy policy works.
If the contractual terms and conditions do not guarantee privacy protection, a provider should not be used in the first place. However, it is problematic that such providers often come from third countries especially outside of the European Union, whose data protection laws are unclear. For example, the United States, which cannot guarantee the European legal level of data protection. And accordingly, it cannot be ruled out that authorities can gain access to the sensitive user data that has been uploaded before. Users should carefully consider whether it is really necessary for them to use such services. And afterwards, they should make a preliminary selection as to which service seems particularly trustworthy to them and from which country the service comes from, or where its data processing takes place, because this is relevant for the legal evaluation. And the terms and conditions and the privacy policy of the service should also be checked by the users before uploading any kinds of photos. And users should also only upload those photos that they really would like to be posted online at a later stage or at a later date under certain circumstances, because here, of course, the general principle applies that the internet never will forget.
It's that time of the year again, awards season, and the Golden Globes have just announced their nominations, and it's The Banshees of Inisherin that leads the pack with 8 nominations. The dark comedy about friendship and toxic masculinity in 1920s Ireland is up for Best Movie, while 4 of their actors, including Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson, have been given acting nods. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once has garnered 6 nominations, while Tom Cruise's new Top Gun movie is also up for an award. The comedy and drama movie Babylon received 5 nominations, as did Steven Spielberg's The Fabelmans. Elvis, a musical drama about, yes, you guessed it, Elvis Presley, got 3 nods, as well as Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio and the drama Tar. And in TV, the American mockumentary Abbott Elementary received 5 nominations. Netflix had 8 nominations shared equally between The Crown and the Jeffrey Dahmer Story. Hulu's dramas Only Murders in the Building and Pam and Tommy also received 4, as did HBO's The White Lotus.
Look, I love Evan Peters, but Dahmer getting this much love at the Golden Globes is just a red flag to me. I'm so glad Jennifer Coolidge and Aubrey Plaza are getting nominations, but I think Megan Fahey, who played Daphne, got snubbed. Out of all the male actors in The White Lotus, I'm glad that F. Murray Abraham got the nomination for The White Lotus. Burt was funny. Again, why so much love for Dahmer? I love that Wednesday's getting all this love and attention. I really hope Abbott Elementary wins this award. About time to give Selena Gomez a nomination, and obsessed. Jenna is so talented.
I'm surprised to see Avatar in so many categories when the movie comes out this week. I feel like it could go to either The Fabelmans or Top Gun Maverick. Top Gun was that movie that brought the cinemas, back, in a believable post-COVID world. We're still dealing with COVID, but in a post-COVID summer, this movie, broke records and brought people back to the movie.
All right, guys, Golden Globe nominations have dropped. Yes, they are as questionable as you would imagine them to be. Best Picture, drama, no idea how Elvis snuck its way into this. There are tons of films I would take over Elvis. Hell, there are even a few films I would take over Top Gun Maverick. Actress in a drama, we got Cate Blanchett, Olivia Colman, Viola Davis, Ana de Armas, and Michelle Williams. Pretty surprised seeing Ana de Armas make her way into this. And pretty upset Mia Goth didn't get a nomination. Michelle Yeoh, let's go. This is your Oscar push right here. Give me that. Supporting actor, I really wanted to see Christopher Abbott from On the Count of Three get a nomination. Other than that, I don't mind this list at all.
And that's our show. Find Newsfeed on YouTube and do subscribe to our channel. Bye, and see you same time tomorrow.